Okay, great. Technology is working today, so we are off to a good start. My name is Kristi and I am the National Director of Chapter Development and our WalkNRoll program here at SBA. And I am with Sara, our President and CEO, here to talk about a little bit of history and some FAQs about our WalkNRoll program. So before we get started, we do want to make this interactive. So if there are any questions that anybody has as you're tuning in here live, feel free to drop any questions in the chat and we will get to those. But thank you for joining us, Sara.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
Great. So to kind of kick things off, why don't you tell us a little bit about when and why WalkNRoll for Spina Bifida originated?
So the very first WalkNRoll for Spina Bifida occurred in Awareness Month of 2009 in Washington, D.C. at George Washington University. And it was the culmination of work done by SBA and its chapters in trying to create a signature event that would raise funds for the organization and to support the programs that chapters and the national organization did, as well as a way to kind of bring the community together. So we've always said that the WalkNRoll was both a fundraising and a friend-raising activity. A lot of other organizations' WalkNRoll walks are about awareness, and for our community, we felt like it was really important for the community to come together and kind of be aware of one another, not so much as the outside world being aware of spina bifida, but actually to provide people an opportunity to get together when they may not have never seen somebody with spina bifida before. So to see someone like yourself is really an empowering thing, and the WalkNRoll was a great way to do that. And over the years, it's really kind of grown, and it's cool because now you see little kids who are able to connect with adults who have spina bifida, and kind of continuity of life. It helps parents, and it helps the adults, and it helps the kids, and it's just a fun activity.
Great. Yeah. I know the very first WalkNRoll that I ever attended, somebody came up to me after the event and said, somebody who was attending and said, this was just like so great. This is the first time my granddaughter has been around other kids who are using, walkers, wheelchairs, et cetera. And I think that, just to kind of have an opportunity to be around people who might be experiencing similar whether it's challenges or successes, I think that's a great community to have to learn from, where you can connect and, kind of just learn and grow, and all kinds of good things that can come from that. So, so you mentioned fundraising as well. So when somebody is fundraising for WalkNRoll, or when we're asking them to fundraise for our WalkNRoll program, what are they fundraising toward, or where do the funds go?
So it goes to support the mission of the Spina Bifida Association, and that takes a lot of different, that looks a lot of different ways, I guess you would say. So
big question to ask with, we have a lot going on.
So, it helps to support local communities in terms of the programs that they provide for people within the community, education, networking, getting together, all of those things are important to people in a local community, because as you said, in some instances, the walk or an activity we do in a chapter may be the only time somebody sees somebody who looks like themselves. And that's really important. At the national level, it helps to support things like our efforts to find new doctors to treat adults with spina bifida, and to find ways to better treat people with spina bifida across the spectrum from birth until they're no longer with us. And so I think it's really, it supports everything that we do to make a better and brighter future for all people who are impacted by spina bifida.
Great. So if you had to say one reason why somebody should join and be a part of WalkNRoll, what would your answer be? Just one.
Just one?
Of the many great reasons.
Be there or be square. I mean, it's a cool thing to do. I think it's you're doing something good for the community, but you're doing something good for yourself as well too. I mean, it really is like a big block party in a lot of ways. And it's a chance for people to see one another. And, you know, in some instances, we know people who that's the only time they see each other is that it's the walk and roll. And it's like a big deal when they get together. You know, we've had kids who are, meet each other as little kids, and as they get into school age, it's like a big homecoming for them in a lot of ways, because they get to see people that they wouldn't see otherwise. And I just think you're supporting a great mission and having fun.
All good things. Great. So similarly, there are so many great ways to begin your fundraising journey and supporting the mission of SBA. I think for a lot of people, you know, maybe if they have not been a part of WalkNRoll in the past, or maybe if they haven't joined in, you know, fundraising events, you know, for SBA or another organization, that piece of this event can feel a little bit intimidating. So any recommendations, or maybe kind of like your best piece of fundraising advice for somebody who's looking to get started?
Don't say no for someone else. When you decide you're not going to ask somebody for a donation, you've taken away their ability to make a decision for themselves. You've said no for them. So I think not being afraid to ask is important, and you have to look at it that way, is I'm giving somebody the opportunity to make a decision. And it gives, you know, they have the right to say yes or no. And if they say yes, it's great. And if they say no, okay. And maybe another time they'll say yes. So I think that don't let fear be the thing holding you back from making that ask. And in today's world, it's so easy to do, given technology and the way that our fundraising software works. I mean, it's an easy ask. And you may be surprised at who gives and what they give, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip. And you know, you never know who wants to support you, or maybe you do, but you know, just that's a really good reminder. You don't you have to ask in order to get that help and that support. So thank you for that. Kind of switching gears just a little bit, wanted to talk through this year's event is virtual. And so that looks a little bit different than, you know, if you've joined us for past physical in-person WalkNRoll events. Things look a little bit different in 2021. So 2020, we held our first virtual National Day of WalkNRoll. And so that kind of shook things up a little bit, but I think we held a lot of those same underlying principles. WalkNRoll is still, will always be both a fundraiser and a friendraiser, and we do still try to pull lots of great resources, opportunities to connect, educational resources, et cetera, into one big fun and entertaining day, right? So with our virtual WalkNRoll program, we invite anybody and everybody to sign up as usual. Invite your friends and family to join your team as well. I know that you know, you might be participating together, but it really does help us to see just how many people we're celebrating with if every single person who's participating as a member of your team does register. We invite you to fundraise as usual. As Sara had mentioned, all of the funds raised through the WalkNRoll program go to support our mission, both at a local and national level, with all of the initiatives that we have going on in the areas of education, advocacy, research, support, et cetera. And then on the actual day itself, we have a jam-packed schedule of lots of events that are going on. So Ask the Expert mini sessions, from, you know, medical topics to life topics. We also will have a lot of activity sessions incorporated into the day. So I think last year our adapted salsa dancing was one of our highlights of the day. It was a big hit. But we have tons of activities going on throughout the entire day. But from the participant side of things, we just invite you to find a few minutes to participate in any activity that you might care to. At any point during the day, just find a few minutes to you know, dedicate to WalkNRoll. We had people last year who went to their local park and actually went out and did, you know, kind of similar to a WalkNRoll like you would have in person. We had a very elaborate basic baseball dice game that was played across, I think, 6 states. We had people doing yoga, playing pickleball, playing, games in their living room. So it can be whatever you want to make it. And then you can post those pictures or videos into the event online on that day. And that's sort of a forum too, where you can connect with other participants. I think something that folks really enjoyed out of last year's event was just the opportunity to connect with people, both locally, people that you see every year at your normal in-person walk and roll, but also from across the country, right? So that's one benefit of walk and roll being virtual, is you can participate from anywhere and you have the opportunity to connect with people from all over the country.
I think that's right. I think, to be honest with you, it's one of the upsides of the pandemic is that we found that by doing things virtually, people who might not be able to participate otherwise do participate. And I think it's easier in terms of transportation, et cetera, for people sometimes to do things virtually. So it has been kind of an upside from the pandemic. We've been fortunate to see that.
Yes, definitely a silver lining of the last year. And that said, I know that we've gotten some questions as well about whether you need to be in a chapter area to participate in this event. And the answer is no, you can participate from anywhere. So again, one of the upsides of being virtual is that anybody is welcome to join us from anywhere, and you can have pretty much the exact same experience. So we do have individual registration pages set up for all of our regular chapter and walk and roll locations where we normally host our in-person events. But the great news about virtual is that anybody is welcome to join and be a part of that celebration. October 2nd is our date this year. It's the first Saturday of Spina Bifida Awareness Month. So that's a great opportunity for us to make a bunch of noise and really kick off that month of October. If you are joining us from somewhere that's not a formal chapter area, we don't have a walk necessarily designated to that location. We do have a DIY option where that's your place to register. So we have the link to our registration landing page in the comments here. It's walkandrollforsb.org. From there, you can pick your location. Again, if you don't have a location that's near you, your next best option is to choose our DIY program, and you'll get all of the same benefits, all of the same access to a day of programs, activities, and support along the way leading up to the event, as everybody who's joining us from our chapter or other walk and roll locations.
I think the really cool thing about the virtual piece too is everybody's able to do it on the same day. And so it's really kind of like a day that celebrates our community.
Absolutely. So in that sense, we've never had so many people coming together for a walk and roll. Oftentimes we have, a limited staff that are manning our in-person events, and we can only be in so many places at one time. So usually when we're doing these events in person, we have kind of back-to-back weekends. So it's really great to be able to kind of bring everybody together, same day, and just have one big celebration. Cool. So again, we have just a couple minutes left here. If anybody has any questions about walk and roll, feel free to drop them in the comments. We'll be here for another couple of minutes, but otherwise we'll keep chatting here in the meantime. In terms of how to get started, so we mentioned that we have that main landing page where we have all of our walk locations listed. So that's at walkandrollforsb.org. From there, you can find your location or the DIY event if that's the event that you'd like to register for. Through that process, you can get registered. You can invite your friends and family to join your team. One thing that I always recommend is that you personalize your page. So we have some default content that will show up in your personal fundraising page. But people really, your friends and family, your network really cares to know why you want to walk and roll, why you're a part of this program, why this mission is meaningful to you. And so, to the extent you're comfortable doing so, we really recommend that you personalize even a couple of sentences about why you're participating in this event, who you're participating on behalf of, whatever the case may be. That's a really great way to kind of get people on board with what you're doing. You can also invite friends and family to join your team and join your roster. You have a team page and you can set some team goals as well. And then from there, just start asking your network to support you. So some things that we see a lot of times, we recommend checking with the company that you work for, see if they offer any matching donations. Sometimes that's kind of hidden money that might be available to support your fundraising goals. Any other recommendations, Sara?
Well, I think even if your company doesn't have, asking them to make a donation is a great idea because you're a valued part of their team. And so hopefully they would want to support you if they could. So I think that's always a great place. Again, remember, don't make a decision for them. Give them the opportunity to say yes or no. You don't do it for them.
Yeah, that's another great example of where that comes into play.
Yeah. I think too, just think about everybody you know, and you may know more people than you think. And just start thinking about the people that you go and spend your money at. So think about where you get your hair done, and think about where you take your car to get it serviced, and the dealership that maybe you bought your last 5 cars from or whatever. Those are people too that you spend your money there. So they should want to support you and your family. So I think,
those are great ideas.
Start.
Yeah. And I know that, fundraising over the last couple of years has looked a little bit different for some folks since we are spending more time at home. So something just to add on more of the virtual side of that is once you create your fundraising page, through that fundraising platform, you can link it directly to your Facebook page and create a Facebook fundraiser where you can do everything from home. I know that we have had a lot of success with those Facebook fundraisers. Again, just sharing a little blurb about why you care about the cause, what your connection is, why you're participating in this event, and sharing that to your network on Facebook can be huge for fundraising. And I think kind of my last fundraising tip that I'll leave with is I always recommend that you start with a self-donation. So that can be $5, that can be $50, that can be $100. The amount doesn't matter. The kind of underlying principle is the thing that's, I think, most important there, is you're showing people that you care, that you're sort of like putting your money where your mouth is. Hi, this is an event that I'm participating in. This is a cause that I care about. Will you match me in showing support? And I think that that's a really great way. I think it can make it more comfortable to ask others to join you as well when you've kind of taken that first step. So again, the dollar amount itself doesn't matter so much as just, the showing that you care, showing that you have some sort of commitment to the cause. So I think those are kind of, some great ways to get started. We are always here, beyond just this short live session today. Feel free to, reach out if you have any questions about getting registered or how to get started with your fundraising. You feel like you've gotten stuck. We're here to help. And we are super excited for the big day, October 2nd. So thanks so much, Sara, for hopping on and sharing a little bit about the history of WalkNRoll and kind of, everything that supports and much to look forward to in just a few months.
I know. I can't believe it'll be around the corner before we know it.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And thanks everybody who hopped on today. We'll hope to see you for this year's WalkNRoll.